Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Zeke from A to Z Sports, and it has already been a crazy NBA offseason. So, this is just my introduction to the NBA offseason so far recap. It looks like we've just had about as many trades and deals as we can get, but who knows? We could always have more. But welcome, this is Zeke from A to Z Sports. Before we get into this topic, please make sure to like this episode and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, so you can make sure to get all my videos when they come out so you don't miss out on any of my A to Z content. Okay, so getting into this, of course, there's been a crazy amount of trades and signings. Of course, we've got to start off with the big ones. LeBron James back at it, signing as many big names as he can to make another run at an NBA championship. And so, of course, the big one was dealing away Kyle Kuzma, who's been good for the Lakers, but as of late has not got as many minutes. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Montrezl Harrell, who they just signed last season from the Clippers, all dealt to the Wizards, and with a second-round pick, all for one player, and of course that is Russell Westbrook, who a lot of people have criticized this trade, saying that there's no way that Russell Westbrook can cooperate with Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the same team. But really, I think there is a way. I think this is a good attempt by the Lakers to try to get a good point guard, especially with Dennis Schroeder not accepting the 4-year, $84 million contract that the Lakers offered him, and he did not accept it. So I think taking the point guard rule away from LeBron James, he's really had to do a lot up for the Lakers, but just trying to take a little bit of that pressure off of him. But yes, they get Russell Westbrook, and I think last season with the Wizards, he did up his play a reasonable amount, getting many more triple-doubles than he did with the Rockets. He worked much better with Bradley Beal than he did with James Harden. I think now that with Bradley Beal also, since he handled the ball a lot with the Wizards, he will be used to, and as he had to with James Harden, he'll be more accommodated with that role that LeBron James will also have to handle the ball. But I do think that they'll have Russell Westbrook as the primary ball handler there. And I think if they can play it just right, it'll be a good fit. Some other moves that the Lakers made, but before we get into that, my bad, we've got Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell going to the Wizards. The Wizards also signed Spencer Dinwiddie. So now they've got Dinwiddie, they've got also Bradley Beal, of course, Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell. They can make something out of this lineup. They got a lot for the one player that they dealt away. So I think they can do a lot with that and make the Wizards a little bit better than last season. But yeah, I just had to get that in there. So moving on, some other moves that the Lakers made. Of course, like I said, they tried to re-sign Schroeder, but he turned it down, surprisingly. But yeah, Carmelo Anthony, they got him on a 1-year deal, and as he's been honestly getting better the last couple of seasons, we thought he was kind of on a downhill trend getting later in his career. He is 37, but a 1-year deal, hoping that this team that they put together can make a run for it, as they also sign a Dwight Howard back with his third run with the Lakers. They signed him from the 76ers. They did lose Andre Drummond, who I think would have started for them, but I think they can, with Andre Drummond going to the Sixers, which I think will be a terrible fit with him, who is a pure center, and Joel Embiid, who is also a pure center. I don't think that they can make that work together, so I think they'll have to have Drummond coming off the bench. But yes, with the Lakers, I do think with the signings they've made, 3 of their signings will be starters. I think they'll have Westbrook running the point guard position, and then you can have Carmelo as shooting guard with LeBron at small forward, Anthony Davis, of course, down low at power forward, and then Dwight Howard, who I think would probably be the worst starter, but has gotten better than his worst years in the NBA, which was a little bit back. But yeah, and so after the big signing of Westbrook, we did have the NBA draft, and Cade Cunningham was signed number 1 out of Oklahoma State by the Pistons. I think that was a good pick. He had a lot of hype coming up. But yeah, and Jalen Suggs, of course, we know him. He took his team to the national championship. He got picked 6. So yeah, that was a nice, fun NBA draft. Not the most talented players coming in that we've seen. But yeah, it was so good. Moving on to the Chicago Bulls, who were another one of the biggest signing teams. They did sign Lonzo Ball coming out of his contract with the Pelicans to a 4-year deal for $85 million. So Lonzo Ball played much better with the Pelicans with Lonzo playing with Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and he did terrific with those. He learned not to take so many shots. He was taking a lot of dumb shots with the Lakers, but he figured out how to be a true point guard, and that's really what the Bulls need getting into this. And then also signing, of course, DeMar DeRozan, 3-year, $85 million. So he's getting his money's worth after coming from the Raptors to the Spurs, and now with the Bulls, alongside Zach LaVine, who really at this point is a top 15 player in the league, in my opinion. He's become so good, one of the most explosive players in the league. And this 3 right here could make the Bulls a legitimate shot at the Eastern title to challenge the Bucks. And, of course, the Heat, which we'll move on to. Alex Caruso, of course, signed with the Bulls from the Lakers. Another player that the Lakers will miss, but they're hoping that they can put together for this championship run. The Bulls definitely will be around and are looking very threatening in the East. Of course, the Heat had one of the hugest signings, overall. They had Kyle Lowry from the Raptors for a 3-year deal as they sent Dragic to Toronto, which was where Lowry was from. They signed Jimmy Butler back with a max contract. People were wondering if Butler would come back or not. They did get him back. Duncan Robinson's back. PJ Tucker, who's a terrific defender, is now an NBA champion to a 2-year deal. And then you've got Victor Oladipo coming back from an injury too. And they also signed Markieff Morris, another player that the Lakers will miss. So the Lakers, honestly, when you look at this, their starting 5 is terrific, but their bench has depleted a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare, how much the bench will play into it. But yeah, this is crazy with the Heat, all these players that they got. They could have Victor Oladipo starting at shooting guard, which is his primary position. And then you've got Butler as small forward. PJ Tucker playing power forward, I think. I can make that work. Bam Adebayo down low at center. And then you've got Kyle Lowry running point. That is one of the best starting 5s. And then you've got Duncan Robinson and Markieff Morris off the bench. That's crazy. This is one of the best starting 5s now in the NBA. Of course, it was crazy. And then also the team that made it to the finals, the Suns, coming up just short to the Bucks, re-signed Chris Paul, CP3, to a 4-year, $120 million contract, which is one of the biggest contracts that we've seen. Of course, you got Steph Curry's contract. He re-signed with the Warriors for a 4-year deal. And so he's basically saying that he's going to be with the Warriors. They were trying to maybe get Bradley Beal. I don't know if that's going to happen for the Warriors. Of course, they've got Klay Thompson back. I don't know if they're going to be able to get another superstar. But yeah, looking at this Chris Paul signing, he's 36 right now. So when this contract runs out, he'll be 40. And so, of course, he took them to the finals, their first finals in a very long time. But yeah, it's just an unbelievable sign by the Suns. You'll probably get him for honestly what I think they're going to do. they'll get him his last 2 good years in the NBA. Will probably be these next 2 years, and then he'll start to fade in the next couple of years. So I think what they're gonna plan to do is get the most out of them and hopefully win a finals if they can get a run like that they had last year. Of course, there's many more terrific looking teams that people have been assembling, but if they can somehow get back to the finals with him, but then they might trade him away after those next 2 years, and then this will be the contract that he ends on. There's no way he plays past 40, in my opinion. We even thought he might retire after this season, but apparently he signed for 4 more years. Also looking at another one of the super teams in the NBA, we've got Blake Griffin coming back to the Nets. Of course, you've got Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. And then they signed Patty Mills, who's been one of the best Spurs players. Of course, if you've seen him in the Olympics, he's been playing terrific for the Australian team. And I was even thinking about watching him today in the USA game against when he was playing for Australia against them. How good he was looking. He was making fadeaway threes, making good decisions with the basketball. He is really ascending to the peak of his career, and he's going to join this Nets team. This is a 2-year deal for $16 million, so he's getting his money worth. And yeah, the Nets are again going to be looking very good in the East. Of course, now you got the Bulls and the Heat, and of course the Bucks coming back to look out for. Another big deal for a good point guard. We've seen a lot of him. He's one of the best decision makers that we've seen as of late. We've got the Knicks making moves on a contract buyout after Kemba Walker was dealt to the Thunder from the Celtics. Brad Stevens, the new GM there, and but then the Knicks with the contract buyout, so now they have Kemba Walker. They re-signed Derrick Rose and then signed Evan Fournier. So they're all honestly smaller players. So I'm saying they could maybe move Derrick Rose to the bench, even though he played spectacular. Like, we're never really going to see the same Derrick Rose that we saw back in his younger days when he would put up 27 points per game per season and winning MVP and all that. Like, that's crazy. But then he has played very quality, and in these the playoffs he played incredible, even though they came up short. You've got R.J. Barrett coming back. You've got Julius Randle, who's incredible for the Knicks. Now you got Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier coming in, and it's starting to look really good for the Knicks, I think. And so, looking at this, the Knicks have one of the most solid rosters now with a lot of these young guards, but you can't start all of them at once and have them all on the floor. So it's going to be pretty crazy for the Knicks to see what they can do with that. And then lastly, this is going to be wrapping up this episode of A to Z Sports. Thank you for sticking with me with this. We've got the Pelicans making moves to fill in for the absence of Lonzo Ball. And honestly, I think they've got better because now they've got Jonas Valanciunas, who they traded with the Grizzlies for, and they also signed Devontae Graham for one 2022 lottery pick. They traded that to the Hornets. And so I'm looking this up right now. We've got another Pelicans trade where they traded Steven Adams. Yeah, they traded away Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe for Jonas Valanciunas. So I just had to look up the details really quick. This is a smart trade, as Steven Adams is very good, but Valanciunas, of course, one of the best centers in the league. Eric Bledsoe, they're going to get rid of him at the point guard position, as he's really starting to get worse in his career. Now they've got Devontae Graham, who didn't play as much for the Pelicans, of course, behind LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier, but he's really very good, as we've seen in the times where he has played. And so now I think the Pelicans have actually gotten a little bit better. If they've got, now that they've got Zion, they still got Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and now with the addition of these two players, they are going to have a really good team. I think maybe could sneak in if they get like the 10th seed or the 9th seed. They could even win the play-in tournament and get into the playoffs. So this is really a very improved team. But this is just some of the biggest moves of this crazy NBA offseason that we've seen so far. And thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this video. If you're not already subscribed to A to Z Sports, please consider doing that so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. This has been your 2021 NBA offseason recap. See you guys in the next one.